My food is a plum tart, or plum cake, or German plum cake, or Schwetzekuchen, or Flammkuchen, or a lot of other German versions I can't pronounce. The German names comes from a German local plum tree, Schwetze, the German word for damson plums. The origin of this plum cake is believed to be Augsburg, Germany. It is usually served with streusel or sometimes potato or vegetable soup. In its various forms, it can be used in meat dishes, drinks, salads, or desserts. Really anything. Another way plums are consumed is by turning them into prunes. Plums are good for your health too. They're anti-inflammatory and rich in antioxidants. Some qualities of plums reduce the risks of diseases like heart disease or cancer. One type of plum has been used in India as traditional medicine to treat diabetes and other health problems, while black plums are used in traditional Chinese medicine as treatment for various conditions. Plum cake is a traditional German treat, maybe because plums are so popular in Germany. Lots of Germans have a midday break where they have Kaffee und Kuchen, or coffee and cake, from cafes or bakeries. This is also the time when people have social gatherings or work breaks. One article said, Kaffee and Kuchen is part of the cement that holds German society together, which I think is a testament to how important the dish is to German culture. However, plums are not only found in Germany, they're everywhere. The original Augsburg plum cake is made with a short crust pastry crust, no streusel, and Italian plums. However, throughout history, variations of the plum cake have been created. Some have short crust pastry crust, some have yeast dough crust, some have streusel, and some don't. The shapes differ as well, some being circular or rectangular, but either way you make it, the structure is the same, a sweet base with tart plums. The plums that are used have changed with the cake's travels though. Since we are in the US, we are more likely to get our plums from California, where 95% of US grown plums are grown. But globally, the top producers of plums are China, India, and Serbia. It proved difficult to find places in New York City to get German plum cakes. Many of the bakeries I found sold German chocolate cake instead of plum cake. From the bakeries that did sell them though, the plum cakes looked very similar to traditional German ones. The cakes are labeled in English and not German, but that makes sense given the customer base probably knows English. Since the plum cakes are not labeled by their German names, people also just see them as another delicious pastry, so it doesn't have to be someone from the immigrant community who's eating it. In my family, Schwetzekuchen was probably made by my great-grandmother, though we're not completely sure. However, we do know that my grandmother, who I never met, Marga Kirschbaum, did make it. She made it when plums were in season, which was the fall, and around the Jewish holidays, and sometimes for breakfast. She did a lot of cooking, and the plum cake was one of her main desserts because the whole family loved it and it was just delicious. She also made it because it was kind of like a memory of home for her. My grandmother was a very talented woman, playing piano, speaking multiple languages, and graduating advanced high school ahead of her class at the age of 16. Born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1919, she moved to Amsterdam when she was 17, where she visited friends of Anne Frank, I know, pretty cool, and went to work for a chemist, while her parents moved to Buenos Aires. They left Marga behind in Europe, where she almost got caught by the Gestapo, the Nazi police. But in 1938, she escaped before Holland, the old Netherlands, was taken over, because Marga's father bought her a ticket to Buenos Aires. While my grandmother was narrowly escaping the Nazis, my grandfather, Gunther Newman, immigrated to the US. He was also born in Frankfurt, like my mother, and came to the US in 1933 at the age of 19. He was able to immigrate because he was going to be employed at an older relative's Wall Street brokerage firm in New York City. However, his relatives said he couldn't work for him with a name like Gunther Neumann, and forced him to change his name. He chose Edward Newman to be his new name. While working in the hide and leather part of his relative's firm, he was sent to Buenos Aires for a business trip. Remember, that's where my grandma was. So someone introduced the two, seeing the connection that they were both from Frankfurt, and the rest is history. But I'll tell you anyways. My grandpa came back to the US in 1948 and asked Marga to come so they could get married. Well, they did get married in Miami and drove back to New York City for their honeymoon. Then they had my dad. Now my dad carries on their story, and his mother's plum cake too. My dad and I only began making what we call plum tart now, a few years ago. My dad thought, I could probably make it, and it turned out we could. Our recipe is similar to Marga's, just with some added flair to make it our own, since we don't have the original recipe she used. As a kid, my dad would add sugar to his slices of Schwetzkuchen, so now we put some sprinkles of sugar on ours. Our tart is also unique because of its butter cookie crust. Our family's butter cookie dough came from my mom's great-grandmother, so the plum tart is kind of a hybrid between my mom and dad's family recipes, which I never really thought about until now. Now we make the plum tart when Marga used to, when we can find plums and for Yom Kippur, breakfast, or social gatherings. I hope to carry on the recipe.